Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking cloud. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a...
What is going on, everyone? And in this video I'll be giving you my UFC Vegas 65 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday, November 19, 2022 at the UFC Apex. Pretty good main event. I think, yeah, there's definitely probably gonna be some bangers on this one, some knockouts, so that's pretty cool to see. It's a good one, I guess, the main card in comparison to some of the other ones, but I guess it could suck. But I would say, as far as, like, you know, knockouts or whatever, I do expect to have some finishes on this one. We'll see if Derrick Lewis can come in here and defeat Sergey Spivak, or if Spivak is going to, you know, keep climbing the ranks and get in there somehow to fight somebody in, like, the top three or whatever. But we'll see. I mean, with heavyweight, it's always changing, you know, stuff is always changing, so you never really know. But interesting to see. And so let's go ahead and talk about the first fight on the main card. So in the first fight on the main card, we have Della Maddalena taking on Danny Roberts. 12-2 for Maddalena, and then 18-6 for Roberts, a welterweight bout. So in this fight, we've got Maddalena coming into the UFC 3-0 inside the UFC, 2 finishes, 1 decision, and so he's going to be a little bit on fire, right? He's coming in looking really good. He has lost before, so obviously he's undefeated inside the UFC, but he has lost before, so that's always good to see, because, you know, some of these guys come in undefeated, they, you know, 12-0 or whatever, and then they kind of get a little bit of an ego, I can't be beaten, but he knows he can be beaten, so it's good to see. Danny Roberts coming into this fight, he is coming into this fight 2-3 in his last 5 fights, so he's had a little bit of a struggle. You know, a split decision victory over Ramazan Emeev, who Maddalena was able to just flat out take out, so... You know, he went with a close fight against Ramazan Emeev, whereas Maddalena was able to put him away. And then, you know, he lost to Michel Pereira, Claudio Silva, flying knee, and then an arm bar. And then his last fight, he lost to Francisco Trinaldo in a fight where he pretty much just got outstrike against a guy who's not really in there outstriking a lot of people, right? He's not necessarily known for putting up more volume than someone in Francisco Trinaldo. Now, granted... and he did get dropped in that fight, or pretty wobbled in that fight, right? He definitely ate some shots, and that's the one thing about Danny Roberts is, he has pretty good kickboxing, pretty good. He slams some pretty good body kicks, good leg kicks. He can fire in the pocket if he needs to. He definitely has some power. But the issue here is, I'm not gonna trust someone like Danny Roberts if these two guys get in close. In a fight where Maddalena is gonna want to close the distance, he's gonna want to get into the pocket, and he's gonna want to trade. And he has that ability to kind of bounce in and out, right? So he kind of looks flat-footed, a pretty good wide stance, so I expect him to eat some leg kicks. But Maddalena has a pretty wide stance, and it's one of those things where it looks like he's not bouncing around, but he can get in and out if he needs to. So if he can land a shot, lean back a little bit, scoot back a little bit, and then come back in, pop, pop, pop. And I just can't trust someone like Danny Roberts in a fight where... I mean, if Roberts gets wobbled like how he did it when against Francisco Trinaldo, I'm gonna have to take. I think Maddalena will be able to put him away, right? I don't think Maddalena is gonna clinch with him, right? I think he puts him down, he puts him away, and so that's concerning to me. Maddalena also, Roberts could look to get the takedowns here. Maybe he tries to look for a takedown if things get a little bit sketchy on the feet. But at the same time, I think Maddalena will be able to defend the takedowns, especially if Roberts is diving in for takedowns when he's badly hurt. I really, truly think Maddalena will be able to defend them and put him off, right? And I think in the first round, I think Maddalena is going to come out. He's going to be the aggressor. Roberts might try to look to counter, or like I said, maybe get in maybe clinch or whatever. But I just think Maddalena is going to be able to land something in close, and when he does, this is going to be a world of problems for Roberts. So I have to go Della Maddalena. You know, I know he's only got 3 fights in the UFC, but I just think if he wobbles Roberts, I don't think he lets him get off. So I'm going to go Della Maddalena to defeat Danny Roberts. I'll take him to win by round 1 KO TKO. And so we move on into the second fight on the main card, and we have André Fialho taking on Muslim Salikhov. Welterweight bout, 16-5 and 1 no contest for Fialho, and then 18-3 for Salikhov. Both fighters are coming off of a loss. Unfortunately for Fialho, he's coming off a pretty... I mean, I would say he was doing fairly decent, right? He was definitely... I mean, he even hurt Jake Matthews in that fight, but he unfortunately ended up getting pretty... He just kept getting pieced up, and Matthews was doing a really good job of like getting over the guard, getting underneath the guard against Fialho, because Fialho has that like boxing stance, right? He does a really good head movement. He can definitely land a combination if you get close to him. He does his best work, I would say, obviously in the pocket, and he was kind of struggling with Matthews, just kind of tagging him from a distance, but then also like power shots. Like Matthews was landing some heavy shots, and then eventually he was just breaking through everything, and Fialho did land some shots there, but it wasn't enough to deal with Matthews. And I don't know. I mean, maybe underestimated him, Matthews working on his striking or whatever. But it was almost, a little bit of that, right? Where Matthews was kind of able to land some big shots, get out of the way, come back and land some big shots, find the holes. And really just, he looked really good. Like, there's nothing really else to say. Whereas Fialho, he obviously has power in close, but some of those things where he gets a little bit, he starts throwing those hooks, he definitely has his defense down in those moments, and Matthews was just able to take advantage of it. But I mean, if you look at that fight too, Fialho was eating some nasty shots, and he was still going forward. So this dude can definitely eat shots and deliver them as well. It just didn't go his way. Against Cameron Van Camp, he defeated him in round number 1. He did get rocked a little bit in that fight, but obviously he put him to sleep. So against Miguel Baeza, he was able to put him down too. And then in his first fight, he lost against Michel Pereira. I think obviously just because Pereira was able to just land more strikes. I mean, he just had more diversity to his attack, whereas Fialho, he'll throw some leg kicks here and there, but he's not necessarily like putting together a kicking game with his boxing. I mean, this dude wants to get on the inside. He wants to land these big hooks. He's a pretty good jab. He obviously banks a lot on his power. Little sketch because sometimes when he banks on those, it's almost like he's banking on his chin and his hooks, and then his defense goes out the window. So against a guy like Muslim Salikhov, this could be a little bit concerning just because if they do get into a wild exchange and Salikhov is able to land something, right, like one of his big shots, like it could be he could go to sleep, Fialho. But I do think Salikhov is probably gonna, again, why am I going to risk a wild exchange with this dude that wants to box me in tight, right? He wants to get in the phone booth, wants to start landing these hooks on me, wants to bank on it. Like, why even get into that kind of thing where I could probably take this dude down, I could grind him out, and then maybe I could get a finish. So for me, it's all dependent on whether or not Fialho is going to be able to defend the takedowns. And I think maybe he will be able to defend some takedowns. And that's really gets interesting because I think Fialho can punish him. Fialho's going to go to the body. I don't think he's going to get... I mean, he's got to be aware that, like, he could get destroyed here if Salikhov lands a big shot, right? He's got to understand that that's a very likely outcome if he gets too sloppy with it. And getting destroyed by Jake Matthews, he's got to realize that, like, he's got to do a little bit more. He's got to be a little bit more aggressive. Can't just sit back, right? Can't just sit back looking for counters. He's got to get a little bit more on the aggressive, go to the body, tear him, piece him up. So for me, I think Fialho, he defends the takedowns, and I think he lights him up when he needs to, avoids getting KO'd. Maybe he eats a shot here and there, but holds up. And then kind of over the course of round 1, it's a little bit of a feel out. Round 2 goes on, and Fialho's really tagging him up. Salikhov's really dependent on the takedowns, not getting them. And then we kind of see a thing where Salikhov starts to look a little bit sloppy. And not sloppy in the sense too where he's like gassed out or anything, but I just think maybe he'll start relying on getting the takedown, and it just won't work, and he'll start struggling with that. So yeah, I still like Fialho. I think he's a pretty good fighter. I just think he's got to mix his game up a little bit more, be on the aggressive, and go to the body, for example, because against a guy like Salikhov, I mean, he wants to go in for the takedown, right? So if you can deny him from doing that and frustrate him a little bit, get him a little bit tired, defend a couple takedowns, but while you're lighting this dude up on the feet, like I definitely think Fialho could win this fight. Now, granted, he could get absolutely crushed, or he could just get constantly taken down. And if Fialho has no answer for him, you know, I could see Salikhov winning a unanimous decision. But that being said, I'm still gonna go with André Fialho because I still think, you know, we haven't seen the last of him, hopefully, and we'll see what he can do here. So I'm gonna go André Fialho to defeat Muslim Salikhov. I'll take it to win by round 2 KO TKO. And so we move on into the third fight on the main card, and we have Chase Sherman, a heavyweight bout, taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. 16-10 for Sherman, 8-0 for Acosta. Both guys are coming off of a win. I believe Chase Sherman was supposed to be taking on, I forget who it was, Josh Parisian, but unfortunately it fell out because of some medical issues with Parisian, and you know, I don't know how that fight would have went, but I wasn't taking Chase Sherman. I just think Chase Sherman is literally holding on to a thread, and I don't think he's UFC caliber. It's just that, like, this is a classic heavyweight stuff. Like, if you're gonna be like Chase Sherman, if you're gonna be like some of these guys, not well rounded, or just kind of a brawler that banks on your chin, you know, you're banking on whether or not you can land some shots at heavyweight and then you get the win. I think that only happens in the heavyweight division, right? You're not gonna go. I mean, what was he going, like 4-9 inside the UFC? Like he should be out, but he's jumped in for so many like short notice things and whatever that they've kept him around. So that being said, he's taking on a guy in Waldo Cortes-Acosta, who is coming off Dana White Contender Series, got the KO TKO, and then he got a win over Jared Vanderaa, unanimous decision. In a fight where they're kind of giving some shit on the mic, right? On the broadcast, they were kind of talking about Acosta, Cortes-Acosta not really looking to finish the fight or whatever. And you know, I do think he's definitely not the classic heavyweight where he's sloppy or he's just throwing 1 or 2 shots. Like, he can definitely slow the fight down. He can use his boxing fairly well. He can also throw haymakers, but he looks a little bit more agile for heavyweight. So that's kind of why I like Cortes-Acosta. Now, in his last fight, he was definitely getting leg kicked by who was it? Jared Vanderaa. Like, Vanderaa was able to successfully land leg kicks. And when you look at someone like Chase Sherman, he'll definitely look for those leg kicks. So, if anything, Chase Sherman, for me, the longer this fight goes on, the more opportunity he has to win. And that's kind of like Chase Sherman fights, right? He'll eat all this damage. He has no problem just like, he has a good jab, good leg kicks, whatever. But he definitely can eat some pretty big shots. He doesn't do well when he gets taken down, but I don't really see Cortes-Acosta taking him down, right? It's not really like his game plan. Maybe it happens. Who knows? But for Chase Sherman, he kind of try to outlast his opponent, eat the big shots, right? Where he keeps coming, keeps leg kicking you, and then next thing you know, he's going to be able to take you out in like the 3rd round. But it's such a sketchy game plan in a division where like there's no room for error that like that's great and all. Like even like his fight against Jared Vanderaa, like it was kind of the tactics, right? You kind of beat him up over the course of those rounds, ate some shots, whatever, but he kept coming forward, and you really got to put Chase Sherman away or take him down. And so that'll be interesting to see if Cortes-Acosta, he can sit back a little bit, but he's got to be able to drop some bombs on him. And I just, you know, I like Waldo Cortes-Acosta because he's not so sluggish. Like, he is definitely a little bit more agile as a heavyweight. He's not a classic bar fight heavyweight. This dude comes in just, you know, he's just looking to eat some shots and then just land one shot. Kind of like Derrick Lewis. Like I don't see him like that. And so for me, I mean, we can't be going with Chase Sherman, right? Like 4-9 in the UFC, dude's holding on by a thread. Like, he's got to do everything here, which might be motivated. You know, he's obviously going to be motivated to stay in the UFC because I think if he loses, he's gone, right? It's like, why are you? He shouldn't even be in the UFC. So I got to go Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I am a little concerned that, not that like Chase Sherman beats him up, but more because like Cortes-Acosta doesn't do enough, and then he kind of lets the fight go, when if he would have been a little bit more aggressive and just went for it, he would have been able to put him away. So I could definitely see Cortes-Acosta, like a lot of these lower level heavyweight fights where one of the dudes just lets the fight go and he was winning or something. I can see that happening, but hopefully it doesn't happen. So I'm going to go Waldo Cortes-Acosta to defeat Sherman. I'll take it a win by round 1 KO TKO. In the fourth fight on the main card, in the co-main event of the evening, we have Kennedy Nzechukwu, a light heavyweight bout, 10-3, taking on Cuțelaba, 16-8-1. Nzechukwu is coming off of a win, and then Cuțelaba is coming off of a loss. So we all know what we're gonna get from Cuțelaba. Like, he's one of these guys who, I think one fight he kind of fought normal, right? He kind of slowed it down a little bit, didn't get too wild, and I think it was against Derrick Clark. Yeah, he won the unanimous decision. So out of like 5 fights, 6 fights, he won one of them by unanimous decision. The rest he lost, and one was a draw, whatever, against Dustin Jacoby. But that fight against Devin Clark, he got 8 takedowns. He slowed the fight down a little bit. He even got a knockdown. So he looked really decent. And he didn't like gas out horribly or whatever. But in the fights where he gets a little bit too crazy, or he dives in on people, he's trying to get like the takedowns and whatnot, and that's cool. Like against Ryan Spann, he got 3 takedowns. But then he makes these, and I don't know like what it is, if it's just overexcitement, is it just the other guy is just better? Like, who knows, right? Or he's making rookie mistakes or whatever. But like against Ryan Spann, he gets submitted. And it was just like he just easily got submitted by him. And then against Johnny Walker, same kind of thing. He just gave up position, and then he gets submitted. And then you're facing a guy in Nzechukwu who, maybe might not be the best on the feet. Maybe not, it's not like dropping bombs like Cuțelaba's going to come in there. But at the same time, if Cuțelaba dives in for a takedown, I could definitely see Nzechukwu getting a submission victory here. He was looking for it against Carl Robertson. And even if it's not a submission victory, he could also switch up the position. Cuțelaba's getting a little bit crazy, gets reversed. Next thing you know, Nzechukwu's on top of him, dropping elbows on his head. And it's just kind of sketchy, right? It's just kind of like, if Cuțelaba gets a little too aggressive, he just makes these mistakes. And maybe he should be putting most of these guys away if he wasn't making these big mistakes, but he keeps making these mistakes. And, early on, it was like be knocked out or knockout, right? He was just trying to knock everyone out. And yeah, I think he needs to slow it down, man. And getting the takedown's great and all. Like, he can obviously get a takedown. Like, I don't think Nzechukwu, like, might not be able to defend the initial takedown, but he will be able to latch in a guillotine. He will be able to latch in elbows to your head. He'll be dropping elbows on your head, reversing the position on top of you, even full mount, dropping elbows, and then it's all over. So Cuțelaba has to, I think, slow things down a little bit. I would test the striking, like, on the feet first a little bit. Don't just shoot in for a takedown like a crazy dude and then be like, oh shit, like I'm getting reversed. It's just Cuțelaba has to fight a little bit smarter, and he might be winning a lot more fights. Like, that's pretty much it. I really think that's truthful. I don't see why Cuțelaba should be what did I just say? 3, 4, 1 in 5 basically in his last 6 fights. Like, I don't think he needs to be that, but he keeps making these horrible decisions, or he's over brawling with guys like Magomedov. The Devin Clark, man, fight more like how you did against Devin Clark. Slow it down a little bit. Don't get so crazy with it, and maybe he'll be able to win. But his past 2 fights, he's just lost position, man, and just made those mistakes. And if he does that here against a guy who's pretty lengthy too, who's gonna have that reach advantage, this dude could wrap up something easily. And it's like, well, he doesn't have submissions inside the UFC, and that's fine. Like, he can get one here, honestly. Like, he could really get one here, or he could get another KO TKO via like ground and pound. So I'm looking for Cuțelaba. It's kind of sketchy, so I'm not gonna be able to pick him on this one. He keeps letting me down, and if he can get the knockout here, that's great. But I still think, he wants to get the takedown or whatever. So, and even if Nzechukwu tries to go for the grappling, right? And because maybe he does get tagged a little bit on the feet, and then he goes in for the clinch, and then Cuțelaba's like, oh, takedown, let me get him. And then next thing you know, he's getting, like I said, submitted or whatever. So I'm going to go Kennedy Nzechukwu on this one. Again, I think it's going to be a pretty fast fight in that first round, so we're going to see what's going to happen. But I'm going to go Kennedy Nzechukwu to defeat Cuțelaba. I'll take him to win by round 1 submission. And so we move on into the main event of the evening when we have Derrick Lewis, 26-10, taking on Sergey Spivak, 14-3 in a heavyweight bout. Now, I mean, what, years ago, fights ago, you just would look at this fight and be like, Derrick Lewis, easy, like, I don't even need to think about it, right? But now you look at it and you're just like, well, really the game plan's out there on Derrick Lewis. 1-3 in his past 4 fights. So now granted it's against top level competition, but it's almost like in the heavyweight division, it quickly just starts not working out for you. And then you're fighting a dude like Chase Sherman, who's 4-9, right? So it's like you got to win at the top because some of these lower level heavyweights aren't really good, right? So it's like you got to be knocking these dudes out or whatever, so you can get back to the top. And when you start losing to the top guys, you quickly just fall out of the heavyweight division. And so in his last fight against Sergey, he fought Sergey, now he's fighting Sergey again. No, I'm just kidding. Back to back, they're giving him 2 top level guys, right? That basically looked the same if Pavlovich was bald. But Derrick Lewis in his last fight lost KO TKO, right? Awkward stoppage. You could argue that like you should have let him get destroyed or whatever, but you know the saying goes back again, like, why are you in that position, right? Why are you getting tagged up like that quickly? And it goes back to like, it's almost like if you can get the jump on Derrick Lewis early on, meaning that you can just land more combinations on him early on when he's just trying to like sit back, load up on some big shots, you can kind of overwhelm him. Especially if you drop in like a leg kick, go to the body, and then just drop in a bomb on his head. Like, you can kind of overwhelm him early on. And like Tai Tuivasa, like that was a classic, like on its way to being a Derrick Lewis performance before they got into the wild exchanges. And obviously Tuivasa was able to eat most of his shots, and then he was able to get him against Chris Daukaus. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good win against Chris Daukaus. Although Daukaus was kind of, I don't know. He didn't. I mean, that was a fairly quick fight. That was like a classic Derrick Lewis just waiting for the moment to drop a bomb on his head. He lost against Ciryl Gane. So I don't really think Derrick Lewis is able to be in the top, right? He's not going to ever be able to. He can fight for the title, but he's going to lose, right? He's just not able to beat those guys who are just more well-rounded because he's not really evolving. He's the same fighter. And when you got guys who can either take him down or overwhelm him with some combinations and push, be the aggressor and I guess time the counter of his shot, like they can win the fight. So Sergey Spivak, he's coming in here with a win over Augusto Sakai. Pretty good win by him. 6 takedowns in that fight. Defeated Greg Hardy. 3 takedowns. That was just a weird fight. Like Greg Hardy, I don't want to be, Greg Hardy is definitely, there's a reason why he's not in the UFC. It's just, he was so one-dimensional. Lost to Tom Aspinall, but obviously Aspinall's on obviously top heavyweight, and we'll see where he goes. Defeated Alexei Oleinik, Jared Vanderaa, Carlos Felipe. Lost to Marcin Tybura. He even beat Tai Tuivasa via submission. Got 6 takedowns on him. And that was his second fight in the UFC. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think, again, like I said, it's like, it plays out 2 ways, right? And it's just like, do you go with the guy who has more ways to win, or do you go with the guy who might win the fight with 1 shot in like the 4th, 5th round, right? Or if he gets lucky. And it's just kind of sketchy, man, but it can happen. Like, this is the UFC. The one thing I will say for Lewis is, it being in the UFC Apex, he might be able to cut off the octagon quicker, push him back or whatever, and then drop a bomb on his head and kill him. But he could look like absolute shit at the same time, and Spivak is able to get a takedown, and it's just not looking great. And then that's pretty much it. So it's hard to say, because if Lewis just flatlines him, it's like, oh, there's a classic Derrick Lewis, man. Oh, there he is, right? But he's never going to be able to beat like Ciryl Gane. He's not going to be able to beat I don't think he would be able to beat Francis Ngannou. And I don't mean in the way of like, oh, looking for the 1 shot where he KOs him. I mean like actually beat these guys in like a well-rounded MMA fight where he's out kicking them, right? Like going to the bottom. Like, he's not doing this shit. So if Derrick Lewis wins, no one's surprised. It's classic Derrick Lewis, and we put Spivak, put him back down there fighting Chase Sherman. But if Spivak wins, then it's like, oh shit, like I think people have really figured out Derrick Lewis and how to handle it, how to eat some of his shots, stuff like that, and like what they need to do like right as the fight starts. Because the thing you don't want to do against Derrick Lewis is sit back, eat some hard ass like leg kicks, and then just sit back and kind of like wait, and then like throw a couple strikes and wait for Derrick Lewis to like tee off on you, basically. Because if he bull rushes you and your defense is down, like it's over. So yeah, Spivak, maybe paw at him a little bit, but be the aggressor. I would honestly try to clinch with him immediately, get him on the floor, and then just kind of overwhelm him on the floor and drop bombs on him. I mean, that's pretty much it, man. Like I don't really think it needs to get too much analysis on this one. We know what we're getting from Derrick Lewis, and we kind of know where Spivak might want to take this fight. Now, that being said, maybe it doesn't end in the first round just because Lewis is a little bit hesitant. He doesn't want to lose another fight in the UFC and possibly get booted from the UFC, or get like a guy who like a Chase Sherman in his next fight. Like, so he might be a little bit cautious early on. And then obviously Spivak, I would expect to be a little bit cautious, but to kind of judge the range, see what he's going to do, and then see if he can, maybe he tries to get a takedown, see the strength, see if he can get it. But then in that second round, I really think, one of the guys is going to go to sleep. I don't see Spivak knocking him out on the feet, though. I do think Spivak will take him down and either submit him or ground and pound him. So, yeah. Maybe some crazy knockout by Lewis, but whatever. The better fighter, I think, on paper, and like the one that has more ways to win is Spivak, and Lewis kind of just has one way to win, right? So I'm gonna go Sergey Spivak. I'm gonna take him to defeat Derrick Lewis by round 2, KO TKO. So that'll do, guys, for my UFC Vegas 65 main card predictions for the upcoming event taking place this Saturday. Thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments down below. Tell me who you're picking. Tell me which fight you're excited for the most. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then we got the next one coming up December 3rd. So we get a little break. But the next one coming up is going to be the one I'm going to, because it's in Orlando and I'm in Florida. So definitely be going to that one. Now I'm excited for that card. That card is a straight banger. For a non-pay-per-view card, that one's gonna be a banger. So interested to see that one. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and you know what, I'll see you guys in the next video.